Thank you, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who is a force of nature, not just here in Houston, Texas, but especially at the United States Capitol. I mean, don't take my word for it. You just watch C-SPAN any day of the week, and you see she represents. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Yes, she does deserve a round of applause. Force of nature. And to Judge, Congressman, mentor, just an example of a strong black man that we need so desperately in our country, leadership. We can never say thank you enough for what you all did for not only George Floyd family, but for families that are crying out for justice in the wilderness, and nobody is hearing them. Thank God you hear them and you respond. Thank you. I am very honored to be with these esteemed attorneys who represent the George Floyd family. Attorney Chris Stewart, Attorney Antonio Romanucci, and Attorney Justin Miller, who you will hear from momentarily as they explain the path forward, not only with the legislation, but equally important with the trial that is upon us, the trial that will have America fixated for the next 2 to 4 months, Congresswoman Jackson Lee. And it's going to be a real referendum for how far we have come in our quest for equal justice under the law.
Yes.
But as we look at Gianna and the rest of the family, we're talking about George Floyd and this historic occasion of the passage of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
Yes.
Now, why is that so significant? When Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson by the police in broad daylight with his hands up, and everybody started chanting, "Hands up, don't shoot," they wanted a police reform bill, but it did not happen.
That's right.
When 12-year-old Tamir Rice, months later, was killed on a playground by himself.
Yes.
I mean, a little boy playing by himself, and the police came up and shot him in 1.7 seconds on video, and he died bleeding in the snow. There was a lot of momentum to have a police reform act, but it did not happen. Then, months after that, Sandra Bland, you all know, was killed in Texas. I mean, for a traffic stop. There was a big push for police reform. It did not happen. When Alton Sterling was killed in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it was on video, there was a big push for police reform, and it did not happen. Botham Jones, Dallas, Texas, right in this state, was killed. There was a big push for police reform, did not happen. After that, Laquan McDonald in Chicago on video running away with 16 police officers present, shot 14 times. On record, it showed that the police all lied about what happened. There was a big push for police reform in Congress. It did not happen. Philando Castile, Minneapolis, Minnesota, killed with his girlfriend in the driver's seat and his baby daughter in the back seat on video. Big push for police reform in Congress. Did not happen. And then closer to home here in Texas, in Houston, you know, Pamela Turner, black woman, shot while she's on her back screaming, "I'm pregnant," by the police. Big push for police reform. Bernie Sanders, everybody was talking about, we got to do something while they were on the election trail. Police reform did not happen in her name. Then we think about Danny Ray Thomas, a man having a mental health crisis right here in Houston, Texas. His pants down, walking in the middle of the highway. They shoot and kill him, Congressman Green. Big push for police reform in Congress. Did not happen. Then we saw in 2020, in a pandemic, when everything shut down except implicit bias and police brutality. We saw Breonna Taylor get killed in the sanctity of her own apartment at 1 o'clock in the morning from a no-knock warrant. They don't execute those warrants against other people, but they are comfortable doing it against our people in the morning. There was a big push for her to have police reform, say her name, but it did not happen. But it took your homeboy, a young man who grew up in CUNY Homes,
Houston, Texas, 18th Congressional District.
a young man who is a native son of Houston, to sacrifice his life and his soul for Lonis, to finally move the soul of the United States Congress to get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act finally passed. So we say his name, George Floyd. We say his name, George Floyd. We say his name, George Floyd. And as I conclude, everybody now in the United States House of Representatives, with the passage of this act, Congresswoman, say his name, George Floyd. And that is what's historic about today. And we can never forget that this is history. We know we have some work to do with our brethren in the United States Senate. My colleagues are going to talk a little bit about some details in the bill, but remember this. What Congresswoman Jackson Lee said is so real. They keep saying, oh, qualified immunity, that you can't do that because that denies justice to police officers. Nobody's trying to deny justice to police officers. This bill won't deny them from having their day in court.
No, it won't have.
But what it will do is allow black families who are grieving and heartbroken to have their day in court too. That's all we're saying. Y'all remember Me Too? We just want equal justice too. The police should not matter more than George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or Ahmaud Arbery or 12-year-old Tamir Rice. This is a country of justice and equality, and that's what this bill speaks to.